The most frightening thing about living in the forest is not the darkness. It is the day a familiar set of footsteps suddenly disappears. Hello to all the friends of wild novels. My name is Lai, a 17-year-old orphan. I have no permanent home and no relatives waiting for me. My only family is Nunu, the monkey, and Va, the dog. Va always scouts ahead, while Nunu loves riding on his back. As long as they are beside me, I still feel that I have a family. I love camping, bushcraft, and spending my days close to nature. On each journey, I carry little and find most of my food in the forest. I often build a shelter, stay for a few days, and then move on. Perhaps I am used to never being held by one place for very long. This journey began deep inside a tropical forest. None of the three of us knew what was waiting ahead. Nunu suddenly fell silent, while Va kept sniffing beneath the grass. Their caution made me feel as though the forest was watching us. Before nightfall, I had to build our first shelter. I chose high ground, protected from wind and away from flowing water. I broke the first layer of soil with my shovel to make a small dugout. The ground was hard, but firm enough to keep the roof from collapsing. I dug a long trench and gradually lowered the floor. Every stroke grew heavier as wet mud covered the shovel blade. No one helps me build a home, and there is nowhere for me to return. So I learned to create shelter with my own two hands. The pit grew deeper as the light inside slowly faded. Va guarded the edge while Nunu kept circling around me. I kept the entrance wide and always left a clear escape route. Underground, a single collapsing wall could mean the end. The deeper layer of soil was much harder than the surface. I shaved away thin sections so cracks would not form in the walls. The sound of metal striking earth echoed coldly through the empty forest. It reminded me that no one here could hear a cry for help. I stopped to study every fracture in the wall. Even a tiny crack can be a warning that danger is coming. After checking the soil, I changed direction toward firmer ground. Survival is not about speed, but living through every decision. Va stayed patiently beside me, though mud covered all for paws. Nunu appeared and vanished, climbing high to watch the surprise. The three of us do not speak the same language, but their presence makes the loneliness easier to bear. I began cutting deeper into the hillside to create a sleeping chamber. The entrance had to be low, but the inside wide enough to turn around. Falling soil made the air thick and difficult to breathe. I had to step outside often and check the ventilation. I leveled the floor and reshaped the entrance. Rainwater had to drain to both sides instead of flowing inside. A beautiful dugout matters less than a dry one. Sleeping on wet ground can drain the body very quickly. At last, the dark chamber appeared inside the earth. Looking into it, I felt both protected and slightly afraid. It resembled the windowless room I used to imagine. The difference was that this time, I chose to enter it. Above me, the forest canopy began shaking in the rising wind. Low clouds warned that heavy rain might be very close. I had little time left to finish the roof. If rain came now, all my work could be washed away. I cut bamboo into manageable lengths and laid them across the opening. Bamboo is light, strong, and ideal for a temporary shelter. Each pole had to sit tightly beside the next to spread the weight. I did not want the roof to become the thing that buried me. I left a small opening for an entrance and fresh air. The bamboo hatch could be lifted quickly if we had to escape. In the forest, an exit must always be prepared in advance. Danger usually arrives when people are at their most exhausted. I tied the bamboo poles with forest vines so they could not shift. The knots were simple, but both ends had to be tightened evenly. My hands began burning as the vines cut into my skin. I clenched my teeth, because darkness waits for no one. Nunu sat on Viayu's back and watched me work with great interest. The sight made me laugh at the moment I felt most tired. Perhaps they did not understand what I was building, but they knew all three of us would sleep here tonight. I lowered the bamboo roof and tested its strength again and again. I crawled around the edge to inspect every support point. Only when it stopped moving did I dare cover it with soil. A safe shelter should let me sleep without fearing the roof above. I covered the roof with grass, dry leaves, and ferns. From a distance, the dugout nearly vanished into the hillside. The camouflage kept warmth in and concealed our tracks, but it also meant I had to remember exactly where the door was. After many hours, our first shelter was finally complete. Only a small bamboo hatch remained visible among the ferns. I stared at it like it was the first home that truly belonged to me. Though it was only a dugout, it still made me feel protected. Inside, I added bamboo posts to reinforce the roof and walls. The space was low, but enough for the three of us to escape the rain. The smell of freshly dug soil surrounded me, cold and slightly suffocating. I kept the entrance partly open so air could continue to circulate. I took out the small amount of meat saved for the journey. It was the only reason I did not have to hunt on our first day. I divided it into small portions so it would last longer. A full meal today can become hunger tomorrow in the forest. Nunu and V are curled up together on the cold earthen floor. They were too tired even to compete for their usual sleeping place. I pulled the cloth closer to keep them warm. Watching them sleep made the dugout feel like a real home. I prepared our food on banana leaves to keep the floor clean. Every scrap had to be removed so it would not attract wild animals. The smell of meat can travel a long distance through the damp night. I knew unseen eyes could already be watching from outside. Only after everything was finished did I feel my exhaustion. Both arms trembled after hours of digging and carrying bamboo. Sometimes I wonder why my life has to be this difficult. Then I remember that stopping would leave me nowhere to go. Night covered the dugout entrance faster than I expected. Outside, only insects and the sharp cracking of branches remained. I held my knife close and listened to every movement. Underground, every sound seemed frighteningly near. A small dark shape suddenly appeared beside the freshly dug soil. It sniffed around the entrance, then vanished into the bushes. I did not know what it was, but La began to growl softly. Our first night was not going to be as peaceful as I hoped. I opened the hatch slowly and stepped outside to investigate. Lingering smoke made the view around the entrance hazy. There were no large tracks, but several patches of soil were freshly disturbed. Some creature had been here while we were sleeping. The next morning, VA immediately lowered his head and followed the scent. He led me away from the dugout along a trail of flattened grass. I carried only my knife and a short wooden staff. If the tracks belonged to a large animal, we would turn back at once. The scent trail led us to a dry stream filled with slippery stones. VA stopped, breathed deeply, then turned toward the slope. Nunu clung tightly to his back like a tiny guide. Both of them seemed to notice something I still could not see. At the foot of a bamboo clump, I found a round hole with fresh soil. It was most likely the burrow of a bamboo rat. I began digging around the outside to avoid collapsing the tunnel. Digging straight into the entrance would only drive it deeper. Nunu and VA stayed close behind, staring at the opening. Their excitement told me the animal was still somewhere inside. I had to keep them back in case the bamboo rat rushed out and bit. A cornered animal is always more dangerous than it looks. The burrow was darker and deeper than I expected. I used a branch to probe its direction before widening it. A faint scratching sound came from inside, then suddenly stopped. That silence made my heart race more than seeing the animal itself. A small head suddenly appeared through the loose soil. The bamboo rat looked straight at me, then vanished again. I had found the correct tunnel, but it still had another escape route. If I moved too slowly, this rare meal would disappear underground. The bamboo rat was trapped at the end, its fur covered in wet soil. It made a low warning sound as I moved closer. I knew it was fighting to survive, just as I was. But deep in the forest, I had to make a choice to keep myself alive. I blocked the rear tunnel with a long bamboo pole and widened the entrance. Falling soil made the capture much harder than I expected. After a long struggle, I finally managed to secure the bamboo rat. My hands shook from exhaustion and from the weight of the decision. I built a fire beside the stream, where the wind could carry smoke away. Small dry twigs went underneath, with larger wood added gradually. The first flame rose and brought warmth back into my body. After hours of digging, all three of us desperately needed energy. I cleaned the bamboo rat and fixed it to a bamboo spit for even roasting. The fire had to stay moderate so the outside would not burn too soon. The smell of roasting meat began spreading between the damp stones. VA sat close by, while Nunu could not look away from the fire. The skin turned glossy brown and began to crack slightly. I kept rotating the bamboo so the back would not scorch. This meal had cost great effort and a difficult decision. I reminded myself to take only what we needed, never more. I placed the meat on banana leaves and cut it into small portions. The fully cooked pieces were for me, with separate portions for my friends. There was no table or beautiful dinnerware, yet we sat together. To me, it was still a family meal. The bamboo wrap meat was firm and rich, restoring my strength quickly. Each hot bite slowly warmed my frozen hands. I knew I could not remain in the dugout forever. Tomorrow, we would leave our first shelter and travel deeper into the forest. After resting there for several days, I packed everything into my backpack. Shelter number 1 had carried us through the first difficult nights. I covered some of the tracks around the entrance before leaving. In the forest, leaving little behind is another form of protection. I pulled the backpack out of the dugout with all my remaining strength. It was heavier now with wet tools, rope, and stored food. I looked back at the bamboo door one last time and walked away. Leaving a home is always hard, even one that lasted only a few days. At midday, we found a large rock face with an overhanging ledge. It was dry, elevated, and safe from runoff during heavy rain. I sat down to drink and listened to the forest echo through the rocks. A new shelter could begin here, but danger might already be nearby. VA rested beside the backpack, and Nunu climbed onto his back. Both were exhausted after crossing the long, slippery slopes. I searched around the rock face for tracks, droppings, or animal nests. Finding nothing recent, I decided that we could camp here. Nunu immediately climbed the high branches in front of the rock wall. He is always my fastest pair of eyes beneath the thick canopy. From below, I watched every leap he made. One slip from that height could end our journey in pain. Nunu moved across thin branches as though fear did not exist. He paused, stared into the distance, and gave several short calls. I understood there was no obvious danger ahead. His watchfulness gave me enough time to begin building camp. I laid straight logs beneath the rock ledge as the base for a bed. The platform needed to stay above damp ground, insects, and snakes. I chose the deepest part beneath the ledge, where night winds were weaker. This would become our second shelter on the bamboo-covered hill. VA and Nunu took turns circling the backpack. They seemed to understand that we would remain here for a while. I studied the wind direction and sunlight before raising the frame. Cooking smoke had to escape instead of blowing into the sleeping area. I opened my bag and removed rope, my knife, and the remaining dry cloth. Everything was placed on stone to keep it away from mud and ants. In a small shelter, organization decides whether tools can be found in danger. I always keep my knife and light where I can reach them in darkness. The canopy suddenly shook hard, warning that the wind had changed. The forest grew dim, even though it was still the middle of the day. I needed to finish the frame before the rain began. If the bamboo base stayed loose, water would make every knot slip. I dug small holes to anchor each supporting post firmly. All 4 posts had to be level or the bed would tilt all night. The ground beside the rock wall was full of gravel. I switched to a sharpened stake to break through the hard layers. A long vine hanging overhead could replace rope. I pulled it down slowly so dry branches would not fall on me. Fresh forest vines are flexible, but they shrink as they dry. I had to leave the right tension so the frame would not bend. I joined the crossbars and lashed each corner diagonally. Cross-lashing made the frame stronger when I put my weight on it. I tested every joint by pulling with my entire body weight. I would rather repair it now than fall to the ground at midnight. The bed frame slowly took shape beneath the rock ledge. I added a diagonal brace to keep the 2 posts from spreading. A shelter does not need to be elaborate, only safe for 3 lives. I always planned enough room for Nunu and VA beside me. I began laying smaller bamboo poles across the frame. The gaps had to be even so the bed would not hurt my back. Fresh bamboo is slippery and rolls easily, so each pole needed tying. The work was slow, but a strong bed would help my body recover. I wove the bamboo into a small raised sleeping platform. Both ends were locked together so the surface could not shift. The blisters from the old dugout began hurting again. I wrapped my hands with cloth and continued before darkness came. I crawled underneath to inspect every knot and support point. Light through the bamboo gaps revealed which sections were still loose. A single slipping knot could bring the entire platform down. I tightened each one, though my fingers were almost numb. At last, the bamboo bed was strong enough for a test. I added a small table in front for preparing food. Our second shelter was beginning to resemble a home, tiny and simple, but something I had built in the deep forest. Nunu fell asleep in Viawu's warm embrace. Both of them were exhausted after a full day of travel and waiting. I watched them for a long time and felt my eyes begin to sting. Without them, loneliness might have swallowed me years ago. I added support poles beneath the rock roof to hang a rain cover. The natural overhang still had gaps where wind-driven rain could enter. I angled the cover outward so water would not run onto the bed. I also dug a small trench below to guide the water away. Wet clothes were hung high, away from smoke and damp soil. I used every empty space beneath the rock to store our belongings. In a humid place, clothing that never dries can cause chills and skin sores. Keeping the body dry can matter more than eating a full meal. I added broadleaves to the roof and held them down with thin bamboo. Their edges overlapped like scales, so rain would flow outward. The first strong gust made the roof shake violently. I had to hold it down and add more ties before it blew away. I made a rail beside the bed to stop our things from falling. It also gave VA something to push against when jumping up beside me. Nunu kept playing with the ropes, so I had to tie them higher. Even in that tense moment, his mischief made me laugh. At last, the shelter beneath the rock face was complete. The bed, table, and roof all fit beneath the overhang. I called it our little home on the bamboo hill. We might leave tomorrow, but tonight this place belonged to us. I arranged stones into a fire ring far from the bed and dry roof. The gaps between them allowed enough air to feed the flames. Large pieces of firewood were stacked nearby for the night. Fire gives warmth, but one careless moment can destroy everything. Near a rotting stump, I found several fresh wild mushrooms. I collected only the kinds I could identify with certainty. Many forest mushrooms look alike, but have very different toxins. When I am uncertain, I leave them rather than gamble with my life. I cleaned the mushrooms and placed them on the bamboo table. The last of our stored food was divided for dinner. After 2 days of constant work, my body needed something hot. The smell of food brought Nunu running down from the trees. Nunu sat on a branch, eating while watching the new camp. He always prefers to see the world from somewhere above me. I let him roam as long as I could still hear his calls. The forest is his home, but it also holds many predators. I heated the pan and added the small amount of seasoning first. The mushrooms and meat were tossed quickly to keep their juices. The flame had to stay moderate because the pan sat directly on stone. I kept turning it so the heat spread evenly across the bottom. The mushrooms absorbed the sauce as the meat turned golden brown. The aroma soon filled the entire space beneath the rock. It was the most complete meal since I entered the forest. But what made me happiest was that all three of us were still together. I lined banana leaves like plates and divided the food into portions. Everything looked better in the warm glow of the fire. I always let Vio's portion cool completely before giving it to him. Nunu received small pieces without too much seasoning. I sat at the bamboo table and ate slowly. Behind me was cold stone. Ahead, a forest without an end. Some meals remind me that no one once waited for me at home. Now, with Nunu and Va beside me, I already feel rich. The next morning, I left camp to explore the stream below the hill. The water might provide food and a place to wash. I marked the path with broken branches pointing in one direction. In dense forest, a few distracted minutes can be enough to get lost. A small pool appeared between moss-covered rocks. The water was clear, cool, and constantly renewed by the stream. I checked the bottom before entering, looking for deep holes or snakes. Only after it seemed safe did I place my belongings on the bank. I lowered myself into the cold water to wash away mud and rest my legs. The sharp chill made my exhaustion disappear for a moment. It had been a long time since I allowed myself to sit still. Even while resting, I continued listening to everything around me. I carved a bamboo stick into a small pair of tongs for turning rocks. Using bare hands could mean a crab's claw or a venomous creature. Damp cracks between stones are where rock crabs hide during the day. I moved slowly so the water stayed clear enough to see them. At last, a small rock crab appeared beneath decaying leaves. I gripped both claws and checked its size before placing it in my bag. I took only the larger crabs and left the young ones in the stream. The forest feeds me, so I never want to empty what it gives. Carrying bamboo and tools, I continued farther upstream. Deeper pools might hide more crabs beneath the large stones. The stream rocks were as slick as oil, so I tested every step. One fall could drive my knife or bamboo stake into my own body. VA followed me across the stones, constantly sniffing ahead. The stream narrowed, and the plants on both sides grew thicker. I began to sense something moving close to the trail. It was not a crab or lizard, but the sound of leaves dragging. A snake lay motionless in the middle of the dry stream, skin blended with the rocks, and I noticed it only when very close. I stepped back at once, kept VA still, and did not disturb it. One wrong reaction could turn a search for food into disaster. We returned to camp instead of trying to pass the snake. VA and Nunu lay close together as though they had also been frightened. I checked their legs and securely closed the bag of rock crabs. A smaller meal was acceptable. Nothing was worth trading for a life. That afternoon, I cut more small bamboo near the rock wall. I wanted to build a separate sleeping place for Nunu and V. They had shared their warmth and protected me through difficult nights. A small bed was the least I could make to thank them. VA slept beneath the blanket while I continued working. Nunu curled beside his belly, completely unguarded. Seeing them so peaceful made me work as quietly as possible. I did not want the sound of chopping bamboo to wake them. I set 2 low posts and measured enough width for both of them. The frame needed to stay near my bed without blocking the entrance. I raised it above the earth to avoid cold and insects. They may be animals, but they deserve a clean, dry place to sleep. The crossbars were secured with forest vines that had been dried. I added a front rail so Nunu could not roll off. Nunu often sleeps deeply after long days of climbing. I have spent entire nights pulling him back from the bed's edge. I wove the floor from small, smooth, rounded bamboo pieces. Every sharp end was shaved away so Viawu's paws would not be scratched. A safe shelter is created from many very small details. What is ignored by day can become a wound during the night. I added a low wall, turning the bed into a tiny bamboo house. Its sloping roof would keep the blanket dry during wind-driven rain. It was not large, but it was enough for my 2 friends together. For the first time, all 3 of us had our own corner in the forest. I tightened the final 2 joints and trimmed away the extra vine. Even when I shook it hard, the little bed remained steady. I spread a soft cloth inside and called VA closer. He hesitated, as though he could not believe it had been made for him. I lifted VA into the bamboo house and gently stroked his head. Nunu immediately squeezed in and claimed the warmest part of the blanket. For a moment, I forgot that we were deep in the wilderness. I saw only a young girl taking care of her family. Night fell, and the camp beneath the rock disappeared into darkness. I sat beside the weak fire and repaired the lashings. Wind moving through the cracks sounded like someone calling from far away. Sometimes I still wish someone would call my name and ask me home. I roasted the small fish from the stream together with the rock crabs. The fish were clamped between bamboo so the meat would not fall. A little salt on a banana leaf was the only seasoning left. After meeting the snake, this meal felt more precious than ever. I sat at the camp entrance and ate the fish while it was still hot. The crabs were roasted until their shells changed color. I shared small pieces of boneless fish with VA and Nunu. All three of us ate quietly, listening to the firewood crackle. The next day I walked deeper into the forest behind the rock wall. Thick vines blocked nearly all sunlight from reaching the ground. I hoped to find wild tubers to give us more carbohydrates. Meat gives strength, but the body cannot live long without energy. Among the dark green leaves, tiny wildflowers appeared on a damp wall. Their fragile beauty made me stop for a few seconds. The forest can be harsh, but it is never made only of danger. Sometimes one small flower is enough to remind me I am alive. Beneath the wet soil, I noticed fresh cracks and disturbed mounds. There could be a large root below, or perhaps an animal burrow. I probed gently with a stick before digging to find the direction. Rain softened the earth, but also made the whole slope unstable. A sudden downpour forced me to put on my blue raincoat. Water ran from my hair across my face and mixed with mud on my hands. I kept digging because the vine showed the tuber was close. If I left now, a landslide tomorrow might bury it completely. Nunu and VA waited together on a patch of higher ground. Both were soaked, but neither would return to camp without me. I kept looking up to check them through the curtain of rain. I can endure hunger, but I cannot bear losing family again. I followed the vine to a large tree and continued digging. Its tangled roots repeatedly trapped the wooden digging stick. The slippery mud nearly sent me into the pit several times. Whenever I stood again, VA barked as if urging me onward. Nunu came closer and curiously studied the newly opened soil. He touched it, then jumped back when an insect crawled past. His mischief eased my tension in the pouring rain, but I still kept him away from the ground that might collapse. I circled through the bamboo to find where the main vine emerged. Fallen stalks crossed the path and made every step difficult. A trail of leaves continued toward a higher bank. I believed the large tuber was still below. I had simply missed it. I cut tangled vines from the base to expose the main stem. Every cut was careful because unfamiliar plants can be dangerous. Some forest vines contain sap that burns and itches for days. I kept only the kind I knew could safely be used as cordage. Behind a boulder, the vine disappeared into a deep pocket of earth. I knelt down and began opening the soil around its base. The smell of fresh earth rose as pieces of tuber skin appeared. I knew I was close to something that could feed us for days. A piece of white tuber appeared when I gently broke the tip. It was firm, smelled normal, and matched a root I had eaten before. Even after checking carefully, I would test only a tiny amount. In survival, mistaking one tuber can have serious consequences. I widened the hole along the direction of the root cluster. The tubers were trapped deep in rock cracks and could not be pulled. I had to dig around them to preserve the edible sections. The deeper I went, the colder the soil and the faster rainwater entered. The first large tubers slowly appeared beneath decaying roots. They were connected in a cluster far bigger than I expected. I used a branch as a lever and raised one side at a time. One impatient pull could break the cluster and wedge it beneath the rocks. At last, an enormous cluster of wild tubers came out of the ground. Mud covered the outside, but the flesh inside was still healthy. These roots could save us from traveling far for food for several days. After the cold rain, the discovery felt like a gift from the forest. I tied the tubers with vines and dragged them from the hole. Their weight sent sharp pain through my shoulders and back. I divided the cluster into smaller loads to carry safely. Nunu and VA stayed close, as though escorting our treasure home. Back at camp, I washed the roots and placed them on broadleaves. Any bruised or discolored portions were removed immediately.
Yep.
Wild tubers must be thoroughly cooked before they are eaten. I never eat them raw, no matter how urgently hunger calls. I rebuilt the fire and placed the largest pieces near the hot coals. At the same time, I boiled water to cook the rest. Smoke spread beneath the rock roof and pushed back the cold dampness. Tonight, at least, none of us would sleep with an empty stomach. Nunu received a soft piece that had completely cooled. He held it with both hands and ate beside the fire. Via waited calmly for his portion without trying to steal. Small habits like these made the camp feel more like a family home. I diced the tuber and mixed it with our remaining food. Even pieces cook together and are easier for the body to digest. I added a little of the red ingredient to flavor the porridge. It was a way to stretch our food while preserving enough energy. The tuber porridge began boiling, with white foam around the pot. I stirred constantly so nothing would burn on the bottom. I added water little by little until the tuber became completely soft. The gentle aroma brought both Nunu and VA close to the fire. I ate dinner in the firelight beside the roasted pieces of tuber. After many days, my body finally received enough carbohydrates. I chewed slowly and listened to the rain beyond the rock entrance. No one knows tomorrow, so I was grateful for every spoonful. The thick, warm porridge could help my body hold heat through the night. I set aside an unseasoned portion for my two little friends. It was not luxurious food, but it had cost us a full day of searching. In the forest, food is valuable because it allows another step forward. After the two little ones slept, I sat alone before the dark camp. Fire shadows stretched across the stone like people sitting beside me. Sometimes I remember a home that I never truly had. Then I look at Nunu and VA and remind myself I am not entirely alone. Nunu woke, climbed onto my shoulder, and pressed his face to my cheek. He always senses when I have been silent for too long. I held him tightly and heard VA shifting below. Those two small creatures have pulled me back toward life many times. The next morning, I left the rock wall to explore a new route. The camp remained intact because we planned to return before dark. I carried my knife, cordage, and several pieces of roasted tuber. Nunu and VA followed behind me as they did every day. I stripped a long vine to use as a toluene and trail marker. While still fresh, I tested it repeatedly before coiling it. Forest cordage can secure baggage, hold a roof, or save someone on a slope. A small object can decide whether you ever make it home. A loud sound suddenly echoed from somewhere ahead. I stopped at once and signaled Nunu and VA not to run too far. A small shape moved quickly through the leaves and disappeared. It may have been a wild monkey, but the sound sent VA racing ahead. Vines and fallen trees blocked the trail like a wall. I cut small openings while trying to keep both of them in sight. After every section, I broke branches to mark the route back. In thick forest, one wrong turn is enough to lose all direction. Rain suddenly poured down and swallowed every other sound. The canopy shook violently, and the path ahead quickly vanished. I held Nunu tightly against my chest while VA stayed just ahead. I kept calling for him to slow down as the mist grew thicker. Within minutes, the entire mountainside disappeared into cold white fog. I ducked beneath a branch, looked up again, and VA was gone. VA, where are you?
No!
I called until my voice broke, but only the rain answered.
No! Wow!
I ran back along the trail and searched beneath every bush. Nunu clung to me, his eyes also scanning everywhere for VA. The rain had already washed away almost all of VOU's tracks. I could only follow freshly broken leaves and branches along the path. My throat burned from calling, but I did not dare stop. I cut a water-filled stem and drank a few mouthfuls to keep going. I drank quickly, then gave Nunu water from the palm of my hand. Only one thought remained in my mind. I had to find VA. Darkness arrived too quickly, forcing me to build a leaf shelter nearby. I made the fire large, hoping VA might see its light. I hung a piece of clothing carrying my scent on a low branch. If VA was nearby, perhaps he could follow the smell back to me. I sat beside the fire, but could not swallow any food. Every moving leaf made me leap up and call VAU's name. At one point, I heard something close and ran outside immediately, but there were only black bushes shaking in the wind. At first light, I climbed a tall tree to search from above. From there, my voice could travel farther across the valleys. VA, if you can hear me, please bark. My voice struck the cliffs and disappeared into the forest. I climbed down quickly despite the wet, slippery trunk. A breaking branch made me fall hard, but I stood and kept searching. Mud covered my body, and my knees and hands were bleeding. I no longer felt the pain because losing VA frightened me more. I lost my parents when I was too young to understand what happened. I could not let the forest take another member of my family. Nunu made repeated short calls while staring toward the slope. I held him close and forced myself to stay calm and listen. Then a weak bark suddenly traveled through the trees from far away. I froze for 1 second before running toward the sound. VA, I am here. Do not run anymore. The barking came closer, and I could no longer hold back my tears. Just as I was nearly without hope, VA burst through the bushes. Covered in mud, he ran to me, and I dropped down and held him tightly.
No! No!
Nunu rushed forward and clung to VA as if he might vanish again. After hours of despair, the three of us were finally together. I led them to a small stream so they could drink and recover. Nunu sat on a rock and still refused to take his eyes off me. I checked Viayu's legs and cleaned the mud and scratches from his body. Thankfully, he was exhausted and frightened, but not badly injured. When we returned to the shelter, I began packing our belongings. After what had happened, I no longer wanted to travel deeper. I folded the blanket, tied the tools, and divided the remaining food. VA stayed against my feet, as though afraid to leave me again. The bamboo bed and their little house were still exactly as we left them. I looked at the shelter and remembered every night we slept together. I did not destroy the camp. I only put out the fire and removed our waste. Perhaps another lost traveler might need it to survive one night. Evening light touched the grass flowers as the forest became quiet. I realized the most valuable thing was not food or shelter. For an orphan like me, a family does not need to share blood. A family is made of those who still find their way back to one another. I lifted my backpack and called Nunu and VA to walk on with me. This journey taught me to keep those I love much closer. Thank you for joining Nunu and VA here on Wild Novels. We will see you again on our next survival journey.